Let's get down to business and defeat the Imperial Japanese Navy. Did they send me Mark 14s when I asked for atom bombs? You're the saddest bunch I've ever met, and you haven't got a clue. Mister, I'll make an Essex out of you. Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against XTRG. It is March 17th of 1942. I mean, what else do I have to say here? It's like episode 102. The war is progressing, and the Japanese are still on the offensive. The Dutch East Indies have not yet fallen, although Palembang has fallen recently. Presumably, the Japanese will be making a play at Java before too long. Last turn, we did get some intelligence on Japanese planning for a landing at Semarang, which is kind of halfway between Batavia and Surabaya, so that would make sense. But that was last turn. We got some intelligence there about units planning to land there. So it wasn't intelligence about units actually on landing craft or on ships on the way there. It was intelligence about troops planning to land there. So that doesn't even mean they've embarked yet. They could still be, ashore, gaining supplies, gaining preparation points, other things like that. But it at least gives us a little bit of an indication that he may be intending to cut the peninsula or the island in half. Meanwhile, the Nestor, I think, is a British N-class destroyer, dropping depth charge patterns on the I-165. We thought we sank the I-153, or at least that was the claim last turn, near Perth. Now a little bit further north, the Nestor is dropping depth charges on the enemy vessels as well. A little bit further north. So hopefully we can knock out 2 enemy submarines. That would be great. You can see dropping depth charges all over this guy. Near misses, rattling the sub, but nothing, no hits or anything like that. We only got 1 hit last time, so I'm skeptical that we actually sank him last time. But you know, this guy's getting a little bit of a shake in here. We're just rattling him up a little bit. You can see here the Nestor lost its attack angle, and now we can see the THG. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I believe that's a Dutch sub that's dropping depth charges on the Japanese now. Some more near misses. We'll go ahead and fast forward here a little bit. 1 hit on the enemy submarine. Yeah, we didn't sink it. XZ, thank you very much for the bits, dude. 200, then 300, man. Appreciated. That's like $5. Does sonar matter in the game? What do you mean, Jack Tank? Yes, I think so. All right, so he's landing at Milne Bay. He's landing on the northern tip of Shortlands Islands at Buka. He's also landing at Toroknia. So he's landing on a bunch of dot bases all over the Solomon Sea. Man, this is a lot of little landings here, a bunch of fast transports. So he's probably just dropping small units here, small fractions of SNLF units here on unoccupied territory. Already behind his lines. I mean, he's already taken Tulagi, Guadalcanal, other bases further south. So this isn't really a huge deal other than the fact that maybe he's going to start turning some of these into bases that will strengthen his hold in the Solomon Seas and extend his reach a little bit more effectively into the Coral Sea. But we'll see here. Probably just cleanup crews there. Sonar effectiveness, I imagine it impacts how good you are at knocking out enemy subs. I mean, I assume it does. I don't know to the extent of which that's modeled. But there's definitely like a percentage. Each different like weapon system has different percentages in terms of whether they detect them or how well they detect them or what kind of information they provide, I believe. I'd have to look into the manual to really see. Meanwhile, Japanese Nell bombers flying south, so we know he's got Nells out of Palembang. You can see apparently our ship is dead in the water. I wonder if that PT boat ran out of fuel. I think it was ordered away from Singapore to Batavia, if memory serves me right, and was going to replenish there, but they may have ran out of fuel. I thought I ordered them to stop and get fuel somewhere along the way. I thought at Tobali, but it said it was dead in the water, which indicates the guys were out of fuel. He did just waste 9 torpedoes on 2 patrol boats, though, for no hits, though, so I'll take that. Meanwhile, Kushin, thank you very much for the sub there. 10 months that you've been subbed to the channel. Appreciate it, dude. All right, so we've got 16 Sallies and 9 Lilies coming in here, dropping payloads over Singapore. a bunch of flak damage to them, 17,000 feet. So he's got to be taking some operational either losses or at least damaged aircraft that are going to lessen how effective he is. The Tojo didn't come in separate. Yeah, he figured out how to coordinate that. It would matter more if I still had fighters there trying to run interference or anything. More bombing over Bataan. Doesn't look like it's doing much. In theory, it would be preventing us from building our forts up, but I've elected to save the supply rather than build the forts up further. That may be a mistake. I don't know, but it's the decision I made a while ago, so we'll stick to it. Maybe that'll be the name of the episode, Charcoal. The Cleanup Crew, episode 102. Sounds like a radio show. Episode number 102, The Cleanup Crew. That's what AM or morning radio sounds like to me. It's just stupid, over-exaggerated announcer voices, and everything is, oh my god, so funny. If I knew how to speak in tongues, then maybe I could make it sound like The Sims or something like that. Pretty sure XTRG is hoping it's the fall of Singapore. What, this turn, Helen? Halcyon? Does he see the replay first, or do I see the replay first? I can't remember how that works. I think he gets the replay first, right? Yeah. Okay, Japanese deliberate attack at Singapore, so he's obviously going for Singapore here. You can see he's beginning with a bombardment attack. He's got that extra division in place. The Imperial Guards Division still pretty weak, only at about 100 assault value. Hopefully this weakens it back further. Meanwhile, he's got a couple of regiments here, the Independent Engineer Regiments, the 4th Engineer, 15th Engineers. These guys are pretty shot up already, while the 112th Infantry Regiment and 143rd have all suffered casualties as well. I don't know if we can see all his units here or not. We can hear the artillery fire. We can see some of the units beginning to, interact here. You don't want to see this for like an hour. Skip, please. Oh, come on, like a G-Man. Come on. We're going to make you wait for this whole simulation of the Battle of Singapore. I'm just imagining Japanese troops jumping up over trenches, charging machine gun posts as the bomb... Now I have to not skip it? No, we'll skip it. All right, so we'll skip through this. But we are skipping, and you can see here the numbers are dropping for a bunch of these units. The Imperial Guards suffered a fair amount of casualties there. Some of the other units have used up some of their assault value here. You know, the game really doesn't give you enough information to base anything on. Looks like they reduced the forts from 3 to 2. 2,500 versus 75. You got 1-to-1 assault odds, so they dropped it from 3 to 2. The engineers dropped it from 3 to 2, and then the assault reduces it to 2 as well. So I guess they didn't reduce it by 2, which is good for us. But 1-to-1 odds, you can see here, 1,800 versus 2,600. He has a clear advantage. You can see here he suffered 3,500 casualties, only 6 squads destroyed, but 138 disabled. He did suffer 33 engineer units destroyed, though. That's quite a lot of engineers that he lost there, 99 disabled, 32 guns, 5 destroyed. We suffered more men, 3,700, 69 squads disabled, 194 disabled, 69 destroyed. Nice. You can see that is, 260 or so that we lost total. Also, 220 non-combatants disabled. We did lose 79 engineers. So, I mean, this was not a good turn for us. 61 guns, and 57 vehicles, 12 of them destroyed. We also suffered 1 unit destroyed, so this is the beginning of the end for Singapore. We did destroy, again, quite a few of his engineers. Maybe the fact that he lost 120 engineer squads, at least temporarily, will prevent him from launching an immediate follow-up assault. But again, with those 1-to-1 odds and the fact that he cleared 1-to-1 pretty comfortably, and the fact that we lost more combatants than he did, makes me think that he will probably launch a follow-up assault. And I'm going to say Singapore will hold at least 1 more turn, but I think by March 20th, at the latest, Singapore will be in Japanese hands. Still, it held for more than a month longer than historically it did, and so I'm pretty happy with the result. He lost a lot of casualties. The Imperial Guards Division was largely wrecked. It's going to take a while for that division to be an effective combat force again. He had another division that suffered at least 50% casualties. So the hope is that it delayed him enough that he's going to have to take some time. He'll probably be able to take his healthier units and crush what's left in Batavia and the rest of the Dutch East Indies, or maybe ship some troops back to help at Bataan. But I'm hoping that he's delayed in any sort of advance into Burma. That's the hope anyway. Meanwhile, another Japanese deliberate attack here to the east of Quilin. You can see he's obviously pushing hard there with his 3 divisions that he's got in place. That's like the 3rd straight day of attacks. We lost pretty heavy casualties there. Again, it's 1-to-1 odds. But you can see, I don't like attacking force 1,000 versus 274. We were at like 400 assault value before, not that long ago. Now he's he just barely didn't crack 2-to-1. I would have preferred if my troops retreated, to be honest. We suffered 108 squads disabled. He only suffered 25. So he is grinding these 2 corps down before our reinforcements can come up. So by the time our reinforcements get in place, it's just going to be like the same situation all over again, except perhaps without the defensive bonuses, without the forts that our troops built. In any event, the good news is these units aren't destroyed. They're disabled for the most part, so I can pull them back to a safe place to let them rest and replenish themselves without needing replacement units. Still, not a great result for us. They held on. They bought time for reserves to start coming up, but I would have preferred it if they had retreated that turn, to be honest. All right, meanwhile, a Japanese shock attack south of Palembang. He's advanced his troops there. They get 1-to-1 odds, but they don't actually drive us back. So we hold our position. We lose 300 or 200 casualties. 13 infantry squads are destroyed there, but the troops don't retreat, which is interesting. We don't really inflict any casualties. Meanwhile, at Kuching, the Japanese launch a deliberate attack here with their guards forces, and they get 1-to-2 odds, so the defenders actually give a little bit worse than they get. Although that doesn't make sense. 60 to 56, but 10 squads to 7 squads? I don't understand the numbers there. In any event, his guard unit doesn't succeed in taking the base, and so we continue to delay him a little bit there. Our Lark Battalion here launched a counterattack at Rabaul against the 4th Base Force. You know, if he didn't have this 4th Base Force with 25 assault value here, we might have had a chance, but at really crushing him a bit. But as it is, 75-to-1 odds against. Ouch. 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 Adjusted assault 2 versus 151. So he does have good defensive terrain. He suffered 11 casualties. We lost 73 men, 1 squad destroyed, 10 disabled. Lark Battalion. F for the Lark Battalion. More like, I don't know. They just got mowed down by Japanese machine guns. That's what just happened to them. Meanwhile, deliberate attack at Tarapo up the peninsula here at New Guinea. What am I looking at on the map, Southern? Okay, so yeah, he landed on a bunch of, earlier in the turn, he landed on all of these tiny little islands that are not bases anyway, so he'd need to invest quite a bit of engineering resources in these to turn these into bases. He's already advanced further south than this, so taking these islands is really just mopping up in his rear. But you can see here he took Tarapo. There were no troops there, so not really a surprise. And doesn't look like he's going to strike at Moresby yet, so he's still biding his time there. Meanwhile, I did start building some fortifications in and along the Indian coast and at Calcutta and other bases where we had engineers available, just to start sort of filling in the interior of India as well in the event we do see an invasion there at some point in time. I don't have a lot of engineers to do that. I don't have enough to really... I'm going to have to shift troops around. But we're at least starting the process of digging ditches in India to help defend that position. So it looks like that's the end of the turn. You know, a couple of attacks that weren't great for us. Singapore obviously was not good for us. And then the defense of that base to the east of Quilin in China was not a good result for us. Nothing surprising, per se, but not great results, I think is fair to say. In any event, none of it was surprising and not too disappointing, given the fact that you know, we knew we could only hold Singapore for so long. Singapore could fall as early as tomorrow. I'm going to put my money on 2 turns, tomorrow and then the turn after will be when it falls and the mass surrender occurs. But I could hedge my bets and say maybe he won't want to launch large-scale attacks that are going to chew through his supplies 3 turns in a row. So I would say maybe we'll survive till the 20th, but we'll see.
Okay, so we are back. Let's go ahead and take a look at the situation in Singapore. We had about 740 assault value last turn. You can see this dropped pretty considerably, down almost 200 from the last turn. One of the units was destroyed. I'll have to take a look and see which one that is. We were trying to get maybe it was the unit we were trying to pull out via air. What were we trying to pull out via air to Meaden? It was the 2nd Loyal Battalion. So yeah, this is the unit that I guess the fragment of the 2nd Loyal that was left behind at Singapore is destroyed. So we did get 6 British infantry sections out, as well as 2 Bren sections. Are they always marked as sections or squads? That looked different to me. Oh no, they're sections. Okay. So we got a couple of British troops out of the 2nd Loyal Battalion. We'll switch these guys up to Sabang. You can see here that we got 8 of the British infantry sections out, as well as some mortars and support. Meanwhile, I think, the troops that they were trying to get out are all gone. We did chew up a little bit more supply, so I think the question is now, who do we want to try and pull out? We'll probably get about 8 more squads out before the next attack, at least. Like, some of these units I'd rather just disband, but they'll get destroyed soon enough anyway. Oh, wow. The SSV. The SSV brigade had like 50 squads last turn. All 60 of its Malayan infantry squads are disabled now. They do act a little bit like bullet sponges, but... So what I don't know is if I pull these guys out... They might be locked because this says 3rd H Indian Corps, which is in the 3rd Indian Corps. Is that a restricted SSV? It doesn't say restricted. So I could try and pull these guys out and get some of these Malayan squads out. They would be potentially useful for the 1st Burma Division. Well, no, those are Burmese squads. Burmese and Indian squads. I don't see anything about Malayan infantry squads in that unit. Nothing in the British Infantry Division either. There are some Burmese rifle battalions, which they could potentially be useful to move them into. I don't know if we get anything in the way of replenishment squads for Malaya, especially given that Malaya is all completely under enemy control. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the troops, the pools. We'll hide everything, and then we'll go with squads. We'll hide the U.S. And the Soviets. So do we see anything here for Malayan infantry squads? Yeah, it doesn't. It looks like we've used 4. The build rate is 2, I guess, but it's already over. It ended in February, so we're not going to get any more replacement units of those. Jack Tank, yeah, I'm still holding Port Blair. He's got 1 unit here. We've got 1 unit, but we don't have enough to counterattack him, but he doesn't have anywhere near enough strength there to overrun us. So it's sort of a stalemate with the Japanese troops ashore at Port Blair. He brought in a handful of troops via like an airdrop. They tried to attack 2 turns in a row, failed, got absolutely shredded. We've got level 2 forts. We've also got some crack troops we brought in as reserves, the RM Viper Force, these paratroopers. But the problem is because of the terrain, it's a jungle terrain, so a counterattack would probably kill us as well. So as long as he continues to bring supplies in via air, he could probably keep his troops alive, but he probably can't. He doesn't have anywhere near enough strength to overrun us there. I will form the Indian Division like a G-Men. I'm waiting on that. So I think maybe I'll just figure out off screen. I'm just not sure who I want to try and pull out here. The SSVs are always only going to have Malayan squads, and we're not going to be able to reinforce with Malayan squads. So I don't know if I want to pull that elements of that unit out. I mean, we could just try and go for the 3rd Indian Corps headquarters unit, but it's also tied its HQ to Malayan Command. We'd have to spend 118 points to try and get it out, which I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, ideally, I would get some units that have British infantry sections, because that's what I'm going to need the most as we get into a war of attrition in the Burmese theater. I'm either going to need Indian troops or British troops for the most part. I don't want to like sacrifice my ability to hold for another turn by pulling out too many good ready troops. I really would prefer to find a unit that's like heavily devastated. You know, the 22nd Australian Brigade as well might not be a terrible option. They're pretty expensive. I won't try and change the... Could I evacuate? They have Malayan headquarters, so I don't think I can bring them into Abda. So even though I'd love to get these AIF squads out, that's not realistic at the moment. Because I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of points to change the headquarters of them. So we'll have to see. I mean, we could try and pull elements of the 11th Indian Division out, but that would dramatically weaken one of the few good units we have left in defense, and the only reason we're still holding the base. 8 or 10 squads may not really make a difference. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'll do that off screen. Can't change which types of squads it use. Any in Burma? I don't know what's pretty gamey. Meanwhile, we're going to have to move a lot of these troops on the northern tip of the Dutch East Indies, specifically the Punjab Battalion, the Loyal Battalion, and the 224 RAF group out. So we're going to have to use some of those there. Interesting. So he's got no intel on the Felix Rosal, this troop transport, which is flanking it into Sabang. He's got no recon on it. So we'll see. It's clear skies. We'll see what happens next turn when they arrive at Sabang. If there's still no detection, I'll probably load up one of those units onto the troop transport and try and pull them back out. Meanwhile, the other element, the 223 group that we threw on, the Cap Saint-Jacques, is on its way to Rangoon here, sailing north. No detection on it. It's more removed. We also have a bunch of ships unloading supplies into Rangoon. So we've got a bunch of other transports here have pulled all their supplies out. So you can see just one more transport still docked, about 6,000 tons. This new cargo task force has started unloading but is not able to dock. So I'll figure something out. I can probably dock all but maybe one of the ships, I think. So we'll figure that out to start getting that additional 44,000 supplies off. We have another 30,000 supplies coming down here from further north. And then I think we've got 30,000 or so supplies coming in from the east, from Colombo on these small AKLs. So we've got a bunch more supplies coming into Rangoon. You can say Rangoon's supplies are up to 82,641. Pegu is at 20,654. It's suffering a bit of spoilage, so at the end of last turn, I actually started building a slightly larger airfield at Pegu, just because its supply limit is 8,000, which means if you have more than 8,000 supply in the hex, you suffer a percentage loss of everything above that. So the 12,000 supply above that, you'll lose maybe 2,000 or 3,000 or something like that to spoilage. Now, with me unloading like 10,000 supply a turn at Rangoon, it's largely not really a big deal, but it's not very efficient either. So I do want to continue working on the forts at Pegu to strengthen the base, but I also have started to allocate some engineers toward building it to a level 2 airfield, because the amount of supply you can hold at a base is directly influenced by the size of the base. The size of the base is based off the port level and then also the airfield level. So the airfield level only being at 1. I think if we have airfield level at 2, that'll increase supply limit maybe to 12,000, but maybe more. I'm not sure. We'll see here. I could probably actually take a look here. Where's a base where we have a 2 and see what it'll be? All these are at 1. Well, the air capacity of 3 is 32,000, so it's probably, well, I don't know, because that's 3, so 3 gets it. I mean, the manual lays it out. Meanwhile, Mandalay apparently is short supply or aviation support. So I'm loading up some aviation support that's currently in Rangoon. I'm going to be sending the 107th Base Force out to Mandalay to get its aviation support up, to get those aircraft up and running at Mandalay. Meanwhile, we've got additional aircraft operating here in Rangoon. You can see we've got 154 aircraft, 148 of them are ready. We finally got the aviation support to where it needs to be at the base. You can see here the fatigue levels are a little bit high in some of these transport aircraft. One of the squadrons of RAF Hurricanes also is at 12, so it's a little bit higher than I would like. I'd prefer these all to be below 10 before they go into combat, but I think you really just want to make sure they're below like 15 to 20. The transport aircraft are less relevant. You might see a slight uptick in ops losses, but that's fine. Meanwhile, you can see here we are bringing... What are we bringing in right now into Rangoon? Abda's, or is it Burma Corps or Abda? One of them I've moved into strat mode. I'm not sure where I'm going to move them yet. One of the units here, 224 I think is what I'm slowly bringing in. So you can see actually more than half of it is at Rangoon. Some of it's still about 400 of it is still left at Sabang. I can't believe this isn't the parent unit yet, but I guess it should be soon. Maybe the next turn. Anyway. We'll take a look at China in a second here. Jack, I'm not going to counterattack at Port Blair without reinforcements. So 13 assault value. I think he's got like 10 assault value, but it's a jungle terrain, so it's ×3 for the defender, which means I'd really need to bring in like a whole nother battalion, maybe more, to have any chance of overwhelming him. It's really just not worth it at this point in time. He brought in paratroopers. His paratroopers are stuck right now. They have no chance of taking the base at the moment. And I don't want to wreck my own units trying to drive him out for the moment. So anyway, that's the situation in Rangoon. You can see, obviously, we are working on slowly bringing supplies into China via the Burma Road, in addition to what we already get automatically. You can see Quying has 8,000 supply. Chungking had 44,000 last turn. It's up to 45,000 this turn. So the supplies are going up a little bit there. We also have started flying combat air patrols over a couple of bases, over Ankang and then also over Suyang, mainly because I don't want them dropping paratroopers in our rear with some kind of surprise. I probably should put some troops at Chung Chang as well, north of Sian, just to make sure he doesn't drop any troops back there. This Chinese corps is very small, so I'm actually going to go ahead and... I know its objective is Sian, but I'm going to move it back to Kuching. And then I'm also going to move the 17th Corps as well, which is also very small, and is still like 90 days away from it being ready to really train and get better. And then we'll move them back to this base, just to make sure he doesn't troops into our rear at bases that are unoccupied. We have some additional troops like the 9th Separate Brigade that are on their way south toward some bases further south, with some Chinese rifle squads and engineers on the way. Meanwhile, he has brought troops forward again. So he's brought 4 units forward here to face off against our 2,100 assault value here. These troops are somewhat dug in, some of them anyway. You can see these guys have level 2 forts. Some of the other guys have level 1 forts. The supply is a little bit dicey at the moment just south of Sian, but you can see he's kind of pinned 2 of our units in place. There's 1,300 assault value to the northeast. There's 2,100 down here. Even if these 4 units are all divisions, that would basically put him at even, and these are level 3 defensive terrain, so I don't think it's likely he can drive us from either of these positions currently. He does have further troops to the south, and also at least 1 more unit at Nanyang, but he's not moving them based on our current intelligence, so I think we're okay for the time being. He could try and move along this railway to flank Sian, but we do have troops blocking that direct approach as well. He could move north toward Yan'an, but we also have troops blocking that crossing. These guys are a little bit more dug in. They're not quite as strong, but there's at least a blocking force there. He could also move toward Pao Tao and try and flank and move through Langkao, but again, we have a couple of corps in that direction, although their supply situation is very bad. It doesn't seem like he's making any move there. Meanwhile, the troops in the south, you can see he is bringing more troops in, more troops to the west. He's got 53,000 troops. He's trying to overwhelm the 6th and 14th Corps. He has reduced their combat effectiveness by a little bit more than half. Not much in the way of destroyed units, just a lot of disabled units. The 14th Corps is really shredded. The 6th is still somewhat combat effective. We've also got the 3rd Cavalry Corps has arrived just to the east of Quilan, 1 more hex. So these guys are trying to pull back. They're probably 2 more turns from getting out if he doesn't drive them out via combat. I'm actually going to have this corps stop here. There's no reason to rush them into combat because all they're going to do is replace the losses we've already suffered. And if he's bringing more reserves in, that's just going to bleed more troops dry. I don't think we can. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I can't see what his garrison score is in Manchukuo, so I'm not sure what it would take to get him to not break the rules, but trigger Soviet intervention. That would be interesting if he triggered Soviet intervention, but I don't think it's very likely. I'm sure he's keeping an eye on that. Anyway, the 3rd Cavalry Corps here is just going to kind of sit in place. I'm not sure if cavalry squads are any good soldiers or not, but they're going to sit in place here, and they're going to await the enemy just to the east of Quilin. Meanwhile, we have additional troops on the way. We've got the 66th Corps, which will be in Quilin next turn. So I think by the time he gets to this hex to the east of Quilin, we'll have the 66th as well as the 3rd Cavalry Corps in place. And then my hope is also that, the 14th will probably have to pull back and refit, but the 6th Chinese Corps might be able to be there with maybe 100 or so assault value. These guys have 441. Wow, that's a big corps. So they'll have 600 assault value. It'll have more strength than we ever had in these positions that we were holding at. And then we've also got 3 more corps with about another 1,000 assault value, all headed south. They're 2 hexes away, although it might be more efficient for them to move 2 hexes south and then 1 east. We'll have to take a look at that. In any event, they'll probably be here in about 2 days. So we'll have a lot more supporting troops close in before too long. Okay. So that's the situation in China. Can one control only the allies and give China to the AI? So there is a scenario, Dawson Toss, that allows you to play quiet China, which basically turns the Chinese theater off, per my understanding. Okay. Okay. How are those guys doing up here? We moved some of the H-81s up here. They're flying cap. They're okay. Some of these less experienced guys we added the AAVG gained a little bit of experience as well doing that. Meanwhile, if we move south and we take a look at Bataan, he's continually bombing there. Still 16,000 supplies at Bataan, so these troops are okay, I think. Their fatigue is high, which is interesting. 20 plus fatigue for all of these troops? I guess I could put them into rest mode. Probably should put them into rest mode because a lot of these... Well, I can't put them into rest mode because there's units there. So we can't put them into rest mode because there's enemy troops in the same hex. That's right. How are the defenders at Singapore? What's their... Their fatigue level is low. And disruption's very low. Morale is still surprisingly high. Not super low anyway. At least the 11th Indian Division is still at 69 morale. The 9th Indian Division is at 54, so that's pretty low. But not disastrously so, I don't think, yet. Meanwhile, these guys got shot up pretty good. I thought I was moving them, but I guess they're just hanging out there in clear terrain. Meanwhile, our tankers look like they got away safe, at least for now. Who knows? They may run into subs, but at least these 11,000 fuel that we pulled out of Oosthaven just before he got his bombers into Palembang, they should be clear there. They're still in range now, but by the time the sun comes up, they should be safe, and then we can drop them out of full speed into normal speed at that point. Meanwhile, we've got Hurricanes here, P-40s here. I did fill out the P-40 squadron here in the Dutch East Indies, so we have 5 aircraft here. In 2 days, this squadron will be at full strength, so that's good. So a couple of decently experienced pilots in the 60s there. So we'll have 12 P-40s in the Dutch East Indies, as well as 12 Hurricanes in the Dutch East Indies. And then hopefully before too long, we'll be able to fill out that remaining 339 squadron with some P-40s or Hurricanes, so we could maybe have 36 modern fighters when the Japanese invasion comes. Presumably again at Semarang, but Semarang's terrain is clear, so I don't want to contest them on the beaches there, if you will. Okay, so Perth, we're unloading some fuel with the task force here. It's almost done unloading. So once that's done unloading, we'll get these guys headed back. Just shy of 300,000 fuel in Perth right now. Bunch of shipping sort of exchanging positions here. These two cruiser task forces switching positions with each other. These guys coming south, these guys replacing them heading north. They probably shouldn't go to Tigilap, so we should probably send this tanker somewhere else. That feels like a bad idea, so we'll send it to Colombo. Okay, another 20,000 coming in from Cape Town here on cargo ships. Another almost 10,000 coming in from Cape Town here, so about another 30,000 fuel coming in from that direction. Japanese submarines detected off the coast of Australia. Our own submarines are sort of switching positions. You got a nice little... You could walk across the Coral Sea with the Allied submarines here. Some troops on the way into Melbourne. Some fuel as well. Where do those guys come from? Cargo ships carrying fuel? That's a long way to carry fuel. From Los Angeles? They're at 61%. So if we double that to 1,600... they only would bring in like a net of 1,200. That's a long journey for not much benefit. Meanwhile, our carriers are about to head into Hobart. They should arrive here next turn, and then we'll bring in these tankers are also on the way to help replenish them. So the carriers are still hanging out over here. They need a little bit of a break, but we'll probably divvy up the carrier force once we get there. Meanwhile, the Hermes, don't take that route. Don't go through the Bass Strait. That's just asking for Japanese submarine activity. So we'll swing you wide. The Hermes is going to head toward Fiji, where she will pick up a marine fighter squadron that will operate on her decks. These guys are unloading some supply at Auckland here to reinforce our troops there. Raoul Island continues to unload our engineers ashore at Raoul. You can see here we're working on the airfield. The airfield is starting to... The progress on the airfield seems like it's speeding up as we unload more and more engineers. So we're up to 20% to the level 1 airfield, which will turn this from a dot base into an established base. So then we've got an air bridge of bases between the Fiji line and New Zealand for short-range fighters, which will be great. The shipping is kind of moving all over. Those guys are headed back to San Diego. Suva, meanwhile, I think we did put together a relief convoy for Suva. It needs a little bit more supplies. It's at 18,000. Airports at 3, working toward 4. Fortifications are at 4, working toward 5, 6% of the way there. Nadi, meanwhile, is 13% of the way toward level 4 forts. How many engineers do we have here? 27 engineers with 3 vehicles. It should work. We only have 16 aviation support at Nadi. Huh. Might need to move one of those engineer units around. We've got 172 at Suva. Meanwhile, Pago is at level 3 forts, more than halfway to level 4. Also working on level 5 airfields and level 4 port. B-17 training, Southern. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, but the B-17 training is underway here in Australia. You can see our heavy bombers. We have 47 of them. 43 are currently ready. You can see the training is at 100%. You can see the pilots here. Nobody gained any experience last turn, but a couple within this last few turns, you can see the orange means there has been recent gaining. Actually, yeah, this guy did gain some low-level skills here up to 40 or 39. You can see here some low-level experience gained by these other units here. Low-level is what's important there for skip-level bombing. So you can see this guy gain some experience while also a bunch of them. You can see they're all gaining low-level experience. So the XP value, the EXP value over here on the left, will move more slowly. But the really important trait for skip-level bombing here is low N, and then probably naval bombing as well. So these two traits are what's important. Right now we're focusing on low N at the moment, low naval attack. So it'll take a while. It'll take a couple weeks for them to get much better. But we do have quite a few B-17s here. We may also just unleash him on Moresby once Moresby falls. I don't know if he's just waiting so our engineers repair the base for him. I mean, that is a potential strategy for him. He could be doing that. But yeah. I'm also making no progress on rebuilding the fortifications here. We have basically no supply. The port and the airfield service damage, however, is still both very high. It's going to be largely unusable. Even if the runway theoretically lets them fly aircraft off it, they'll rapidly break down because they'll have no service facilities to manage them from. Okay. Who's totally screwed? Sean Mack? I don't think I have any B-17s in Fiji anymore. I think I moved them all. Yeah, I moved them all. Am I building the airfield with the bombers? Yes. Charters Towers is working on level 5 airfields. It's already at level 4, working on toward level 5. We're also building fortifications there. Building fortifications up and down the entire Australian coast. Okay. Oh, yeah, the troops in the Philippines are definitely screwed. But the hope is that they hold out another month and a half. Get into May before they collapse, hopefully. Why is the second, third... Where's the rest of the unit? Johnston Island. Huh, guess I didn't transport them all. So it looks like we've got some Japanese aircraft at Canton as well. No detection here. So I have no indication that he's got troops at Baker. I plan to fly a recon flight over there once some of the surface units get a little bit closer to see if he has anything here. We've confirmed. So here's my plan. We've confirmed he has troops on Canton and Funafuti. I'm sending a very small landing force, mainly just to be annoying, to Baker at the moment. If, as we get close to Baker, we determine he has troops there, then we'll divert down south toward Vaetupu. We know he has no troops here. We've flown recon over this base, and we've confirmed there's no troops here. But Baker's closer, and I'd rather take Baker. It's a little bit more exposed. It's a little bit more vulnerable. And so I'd rather try and take Baker if we can. I think it's out of range of any Nells that might be on Tarawa. I don't think he has anything on Baker. But I don't know. It's just a small little landing party just to try and retake a base. We've already taken, was it Baker or Canton? We took one of those back a while back, and then he took it back. But it's a pinprick to try and distract him. Oilers, where are these guys going? Okay. Oh, they're there to help the cruisers when they withdraw. Yeah. We can't do anything. They're just grunts anyway. You know, Dos Santos, that's just the reality. Sometimes some troops need to die. Hashtag the butcher. Yeah. So 41st Infantry Division, still a ways away from having enough political points there. Probably about half a month. I'm curious, is the 32nd Infantry Division anywhere? Because I'm listening to a book right now about the Guadalcanal campaign. That unit freed up somewhat early in the war, and it was used. It was a National Guard unit. It didn't have great troops initially, but eventually it became a pretty effective unit. And, I mean, I wish I would... I'm wondering where they are. Where are they? They should arrive some point, right? The 32nd Infantry Division? Oh, interesting. So we're getting the 23rd, 16th, and 14th British Brigades are all going to arrive in about 2 weeks at Aden. So that's great. We're going to get 360 more assault value. Basically, another entire British division is arriving in Aden in a few weeks. So we'll want to make sure we've got troop transports out that way to pick those troops up. Very nice. We should be able to use those guys to strengthen Sri Lanka as well as Burma. So very good units there. Oh, there we go. 32nd Infantry Division, Southwest Pacific. It arrives in a little over a month in San Francisco. I think the 32nd was made up of National Guard troops, and a lot of them were actually from Wisconsin. So, my home state. Although I know it had a troubled history early in the war. The Australians basically thought it was worthless in the early days of the New Guinea campaign. It arrives in San Francisco, yes. It's not on the map yet. But yeah, it's a National Guard unit. Feels like they may be a little bit... was Harding... I thought Harding was the guy they replaced the original commander with. So maybe... I think historically it was already in the South Pacific by the time it arrived in this game. But in any event. So you can see here in about a month we get the 32nd Infantry Division. 21 days we get the 46th Chinese Corps. We get 2 infantry regiments, the 147th and 24th. In eastern U.S. and San Francisco and about... So this will be nice. In the next month or so, we're going to get quite a few strong units on our side. We're going to get basically another division worth of British troops in 2 weeks. We're going to get... actually, we also get the 70th British Division, but it's only going to have 49 assault value. It arrives in Karachi. Why? Why is it so weak? It doesn't come with any infantry. What the hell? Okay. I mean, it's good support stuff to come with it. Meanwhile, Captain Red Eared, 1988, thank you very much for the follow. Green Eye Devil, thank you for the follow. J. Chando, sorry, thank you for the follow. Viper Dave, thank you for the follow. I think I caught all of you now. Also, Famal, thank you very much for the Twitch sub. Converted from a Twitch Prime sub. Thank you very much, actually. So thank you for the sub, I should say. All right. So yeah, we get a bunch of troops here. We also get an Indian division that arrives in Madras as well in about 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, we get essentially another British division, and then we get a restricted Indian division that we can use to sort of strengthen our position on the Indian subcontinent, as well as 2 American infantry regiments, and then in a month, we get a full-blown American division, unrestricted. So... we're starting to get to the period where American and Allied and British ground forces start to strengthen a bit. That will help us resist Japanese movements as we move into April and May of the year. Okay, so let's see here. In addition to that, by that time, we'll also have enough points to free up, if not the 40th Division, then the 41st Division as well. So we'll have an entire new division that's already on the map. Or is it the 44th? The 44th Division? No. Wrong hex here. The 41st Division here. Unless... No, that guy's not. But the 41st Division. So we'll have the 41st Division, the 32nd, potentially, depending on how I use my political points, the 32nd Division, and 2 U.S. infantry regiments. So essentially, almost 3 full divisions worth of troops are going to be freed up in the next month for the Americans, as well as the other units that we discussed. Yeah, Sean Mack. So I haven't really done reenacting per se, but... I've gone to a couple of events, and I know the 32nd Division is a unit that a couple of people I know are part of the 32nd reenactment unit. And yes, I know it logged one of the, I guess you said the most combat time of any unit, of any Army unit. So, didn't we get the 7th Marine Regiment? Didn't they just arrive this turn? So, where did they arrive? I thought I saw something saying they arrived. Where they at? No. Ah. Seventh Marines just arrived in the eastern U.S. Why is it red? Limited supply in unit? Okay. Well, get on your damn transports and head down to San Diego, boys. Get on some trains. So it's going to take a couple weeks for them to show up probably, but the 7th Marine Regiment just arrived, another unit of the 1st Marine Division. Actually, it's the first element of the 1st Marine Division. So in 2 months, we will have 2 more Marine regiments showing up, and we'll be able to form the 1st Marine Division. But for now, we're going to get the 7th Marines on board some trains, send them down to San Diego, and throw them on some transports. So 101 or 102 United States Marine rifle squads, as well as a whole bunch of good supporting equipment, artillery, pack howitzers, anti-tank guns, marine combat engineers, heavy machine guns, light machine guns, etc. So a good unit there to have to get into the action as well. I don't know what we want to prep them for. Eastern U.S. doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We could prep them for New Caledonia. I don't know that that's really where I'm going to use them or not, but maybe we'll use them on a landing at Noumaya. We'll see. Am I winning? Sure. Am I winning, son? Yes, I guess. All right. So that's interesting. I don't know that we have a lot else to show this turn. Well, Guadalcanal is a little bit too far north, so I don't want to throw them in here. Tulagi would be more valuable anyway. But I don't know if I want to throw them all the way up here when we've got all these enemy troops in our rear. It's Espírito Santo. You know, and potentially instead of New Caledonia, it might make more sense to go for Luganville, which has a nice level 4 airfield already. That's going to be a tough nut to crack. We could also try to go for Afit, and maybe Afit and Tana. Tana and Afit simultaneous landings at both of these bases. Afit already is a level 4 airfield. If we establish a level 4 airfield here in the New Hebrides, then we can wear down Luganville from close enough range that our aircraft can strike these guys and continue a campaign of attrition. Afit is also just 8 hexes from Noumaya, so that would be within close enough range for... Would it be in close enough range? It would be close enough range for long-range dive bombers to hit from there. It would also be close enough range, not for the A-20 apparently, only has a range of 6. Hudson's could hit there. We could bring up some B-26 bombers, which could hit at normal range. So Afit would be potentially a good base to strike both Espírito Santo and Noumaya and Comac. The only problem is you kind of stick yourself there in the middle of multiple enemy bases with one base of your own. It's kind of asking to get shut down. Well, it's early for Midway. Dude, it's only March of 42. Midway didn't historically happen until June. The battle wagons repairs, they're doing okay. They're still going to be out, like the Tennessee and the California are going to be out like another year. But the Oklahoma will be back in 11 days from her torpedo. And then the other guys are all back in the States. We can see here one battleship, the West Virginia, will be ready in 3 months. The Arizona and Maryland. The Maryland will be ready in 8 days, so that'll be nice. The Arizona will be ready in 2 months. So we didn't lose any battleships sunk yet at all in the entire war. Pennsylvania will still be out for a while, 5 months. But how effective were coastal defense guns historically? I don't know. Good question. They're effective in game if you've got good training on them, and if they don't get suppressed by a large enemy bombardment. But anyway, meanwhile, if we take a look at ships coming, so we already looked at upcoming ground units. If we take a look at ship arrivals, you can see here in 2 days we've got some more cargo ships, a corvette, some troop transports, some auxiliary mine layer tenders and things like that coming up here in the next week or so. Some tankers coming in a little over 2 weeks, some destroyers. The Atlanta is coming in 28 days. The heavy cruiser Devonshire is coming in 28 days. In terms of carriers, 41 days to the Illustrious, 84 days to the Wasp. In terms of battleships, the North Carolina is coming in 84 days as well. So we're a little bit out from any more battleships or anything like that coming. What about cruisers? 28 days for the Atlanta, Devonshire, 47 days for the San Diego, 84 days for the San Juan, 89 days for the Quincy. Ships sunk. I don't think anything was sunk last turn. So nothing was reported sunk last turn. Ground units destroyed. I don't know what we lost last turn. I didn't see. Actually, if we go to all units. Oh. Why is this not... I've had more units than that destroyed. Oh, there. Okay, so all units here. Date killed. So last turn we lost the Teleko Bataan base force. No, we didn't lose anything last turn. So the battle report must have just said we lost it last turn because because we lost a fragment. But because it was only a fragment, I guess it doesn't count. Although the 108th, this was a fragment up here. And I don't quite understand that. Yeah, maybe, Ivan. I don't know how well defended Midway was historically. Or by when, right? When I said there was no Midway, the Japanese did take Midway with like an infantry regiment, largely unopposed. I think I had like one defense battalion there. I hadn't really reinforced Midway yet. So they've obviously pushed further than they did historically. But, you know, such is life. Meanwhile, the Hornet will be arriving on map in 6 days on her way to Pearl Harbor. The Vincennes in 5, so we'll have her link up with the Hornet. So we'll have the heavy cruiser Vincennes, the Hornet, the Nashville, the Reed, the Flusser, all on their way. Ignore this. I don't know why it says it's like 10,000 hexes away. Off-map movement is weird in this game. So you can see here, we do have a fair amount of units that are unrestricted. I really need to get more of these engineer units out to different bases. I did just send a large number of like base force units and anti-aircraft units and whatnot to strengthen our position on Palmyra and Christmas Island. I'm wondering if we should build something on Jarvis. Jarvis is an atoll. It doesn't actually have any airfield or port capacity, but it might be interesting to throw a float plane tender into Jarvis, because if I do that, it would get us within 17 hexes of Canton, and, well, 25 hexes is still a little bit far away from Baker. Baker's so damn removed from everything. You know what'd be fun is to throw a tender into Howland and then have PBY's fly out of Howland toward all these other bases. That would be fun. But we'd lose the tender for sure. Yeah, most of these bases don't have any real potential to build up. You thirst for Japanese cargo ships, Southern. I mean, I don't have a lot of great intel on where they might be. We can see that there's shipping in port at Rabaul. How far is Rabaul from Charterstowns? The B-17s can't reach there. Damn it. I'd love to do a skip bombing raid on the port there. We can see they only have 7 bombers, though, and 3 auxiliaries. So he does not have much of an air force at Rabaul at the moment. I think most of his air force is probably down toward Espiritus, New Caledonia. I'm not really sure how strong his air force is in the Coral Sea, Solomon Sea. I'd love a big, strong carrier raid into here, but his carriers have to be around here somewhere. I don't know where. Apparently we got some intel that he's got ships in port at Truk. I don't know why, but it's a really dark red, which usually indicates a larger amount of shipping, which wouldn't be surprising, but I wonder what's there. Do we have any intel? Let's take a look at SIGINT. 14th Shipping Engineer Regiment is located at... I can't pronounce the name of that. So he's moving some field artillery to Baldiobop, which is already a base of his just south of the Philippines. So first independent group is planning for an attack on Louis Cho, which is where? Is that here? Yeah, so he's got a unit planning for an attack here. He doesn't have a good approach for there. It is clear terrain, which is a little bit of a concern. We are trying to build up the fortifications here. We're already up to 3. We're trying to get to 4. I don't have many troops here. My thought is he's probably going to have to drive through these mountains toward Quilin before he'll move toward Lichou. But he could come up these side roads here. He did have a unit at Nanning last turn, just south of Nanning. I think our intel showed it was moving southeast, I think is what the indication was. So if it's gone, it's got to be here or here. I'm guessing he's here because if he was adjacent, we'd probably have intel from our troops at Nanning. So I'm guessing it's here. I'd have to take a look. I don't have a lot of troops here again. But we'll see. Meanwhile, the 54th Corps is on the way to Kunming. Once they arrive at Kunming, I think what we'll do is... This is an element of the 54th. So these guys are moving on good roads. They're already 22 miles. So I think I'm going to start moving these guys north. So they're going to alternate positions. I'm swapping these guys because I don't want him to try and drop paratroopers in behind us. So these guys are going to go here. Then these guys are going to go here. So these guys are going to take at least 2 turns to move up to this hex, by which point I don't think he's sitting waiting like, oh my goodness, maybe he's going to abandon Kunming. So we'll have at least a few days before he'd be able to pair drop into our rear. So I think that's a safe decision. Meanwhile, the 22nd New Chinese Corps of the 11th Group Army is on the way to Mandalay. I got to change their headquarters. Not quite yet. They're still in China. Oh, they're part of the 5th Chinese Corps. Right. So I'm moving elements of the 5th Chinese Corps, slowly anyway, into Burma. At least that's the intent. I don't know how I would scout truck Galactic. I'm not sure exactly how I would do that. Yes, I would like to scout it, but I'm not sure about the logistics of how to do that. I don't have submarines that have float planes. I wish the game let you do like sub patrols outside the base where you're like, try and sneak into the port and see what you can see. Stillwell sucks. Night like a G-Man. Raid Tokyo. Ugh. I need more aviation support at Mandalay. Do a Mush Morton except on truck. Yeah, I don't. The game doesn't exactly let me do that. Okay, these guys' supply is in bad shape. Mindanao will fall before too long. How are the troops at Ambon doing? Are they getting more supply? Are they getting closer to their supply requirements? No, they're going the wrong direction. They're going the wrong direction. But the Mulken garrison has enough supplies. So actually, maybe we are going in the right direction. Yes, Dos Santos, you can use submarines. Reminder, however, the early war American submarines are basically, well, they're not worthless, but they have really bad torpedoes that they don't really get good and super deadly until like late 42, early 43. And that's historically when the American subs started getting a lot more effective. I'm trying to figure out how best to use the subs, and I'm not really sure what to do with them because I don't know where his shipping lanes are. I tried putting a bunch of subs up north of Luzon. I thought maybe there'd be transports moving back and forth in the South China Sea. Now, granted, he hadn't taken many bases yet, but now that he's taken Palembang, you'd kind of expect him, and he's put some tankers in there as well, you'd kind of expect him to start transiting some of this oil out of the base and putting it somewhere. I'm just not sure where he's going to put it. I mean, in theory, I think he can drop it in Singapore, and if he has all the right bases in China, he can actually transfer that oil through the Dutch East Indies, through Indochina, and then through China, and then on the east coast of China, he can just load them up with transports and make a really short voyage. That's very inefficient because you lose a lot of oil in the transfer, but it is in theory possible, and a lot of Japanese players do it to avoid the risk of losing ships at sea to subs. However, for that to be an option, I believe he has to take Nanning. He also has to take Luqiu, and I think he has to take Guilin because he needs that rail line, that good roadway system here east into the eastern coast. So I don't think that's something he can do yet. But I mean, I've put a bunch of subs off Miri for a while, and that's where there's some oil facilities as well. And we haven't seen him convoying much. He may be waiting. He may just be building up oil until the sea lanes are safer and he's taken more of these bases. He can do that. But so far, I have not seen very much trade yet between there. Now, I think he's probably using trade out of Port Arthur and other bases in China and the Yellow Sea into Japan, but he's got such a strong air presence in these areas, and our subs are so ineffective that we really haven't been able to intercept much. He can just do a short run from Busan through the Tsushima Straits as well for a lot of shipping. So I'm not really sure what the best use of subs is at this point. I've been trying to block off different routes with subs for potential invasions, using them more against enemy warships. We've seen a little bit of success. We put a torpedo into the cruiser Maya in the Gulf of Siam. I think we've done a very small amount of damage with subs on a couple of landing ships and other things like that. I think we put one torpedo into ship that was landing at Palembang. But our subs have not been a weapon so far. We fired some torpedoes at enemy shipping as it moved to bombard Port Moresby, but it's just not been a very useful weapon to this point. We lost 2 pilots KIA last turn? What aircraft losses do we have last turn? We lost 3 Blenheim 4s and ops losses. I'm assuming those guys were flying over the hump in India. So they may have just been fatigued or something like that. We lost 5 aircraft. He lost 1 last turn, so a very quiet turn. Could I base some Catalinas out of Porto Princia to scout for your subs in the South China Sea? I don't have the supplies here, so we only have 20 supplies. I would need, theoretically, I could maybe fly him out of Bataan. I guess that in theory would be an option. I'd have to get him over there. I could reach there. I've got some Catalinas in Rangoon. I think it's... Yeah, they could fly direct from Rangoon to Bataan. It is in theory possible. That's not a terrible idea. Bataan's not going to fall anytime soon. And until Rangoon is lost, I can fly him right back out. Huh. I'd need to get some subs in position to be able to exploit that information. I really like that idea. We're going to wait a couple days. I'm going to have to divert some subs up that way. But that is a really good idea. How vulnerable is the area around Rangoon? Funky Sloth, by the way, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. So Rangoon itself, Pegu has 3 divisions here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to form the 17th Indian Division. So we've now formed that division here. So we've got the 18th British Division, the 1st Burmese Division, and then the 17th Indian Division here. So 3 strong units all in position here. Dos Santos, thank you also for the follow. The Indian Division has a little bit better experience because they had a Gurkha brigade there that joined them. The other units are not very experienced. Their experience levels are very low. They're training. They're trying to get that experience level up. The experience level will go up rapidly once their target destination is at 100% and they continue to rest and train. But at least for the moment, anyway, we've got 3 divisions here, just over 1,000 assault value at Pegu. We also have a couple of brigades further south, the BFF brigade. Those guys might actually have Burmese. No, those are Burmese, not Malayan squads. But they've got another 200 assault value here. We do know he's got 3 units at Moman. We think there's 2 to 3 Royal Thai divisions down here, so not a super strong force, probably about 300 to 400 AV. We could outnumber it 3 to 1, but if he's got trenches there, it makes things a pretty even fight if we cross into jungle terrain to try and retake Moman. We could consider it. We could look at it, but I'm not sure I want to do that. Meanwhile, Rangoon itself doesn't have a ton of assault value. The vast majority of our strength is right here south at Pegu. So that's just something to be aware of. We've got a ton of fighter aircraft at Rangoon, 154 aircraft. Of those, 127 are fighters, 122 are ready, and they are all frontline fighters. P-40s, P-39s, which aren't as great, but they're still definitely modern fighter aircraft, and British Hurricanes. So all of those aircraft are in good shape. A lot of strength there, 127 modern fighters. We also have another 16 fighters a little bit further south at Pegu, another 16 Hurricanes. So that brings our total strength up there from 127 up to 143. And then we've got another 16 Hurricanes east over here at La Chaux. So that brings our strength up even further, up to what, like 159? And then we have another unit here that isn't going to be ready for a couple of weeks that will add even further strength here at Mandalay as those aircraft get upgraded and ready and into flying shape. We might give XTRG a surprise with those guys out of Mandalay. So, oil resources, not north of here. Palembang is the largest oil producing facility on the map. The Japanese took that a few days ago. Miri is another major oil producing facility. It's about 1/5 the size of Palembang. Balikpapan is another oil producing facility. It's about 1/3 the size of Palembang. Those have all fallen to the Japanese. I can never pronounce this right here, but Surabaha down here is another major oil producing facility. It has not fallen to the Japanese yet. It's about 200 per turn. I think there's a couple other oil producing facilities. There's some industry on Java. I thought there was another oil facility here. oil production facility somewhere. Resources and industry. Maybe not. Might just be Surabaya. There is one other base, actually. Is it Medan? Medan produces 210 oil. I had no idea that Medan produces that much oil. So I was actually thinking about bringing a tank or two into Sabang to see if I can suck some of that out, because you can see it's about 80,000 oil and about 36,000 fuel. So I was thinking about bringing a few tankers into Sabang and then just that quick short jaunt up to Colombo. I have to be careful, though, because it's definitely in range of enemy bombers that could give us a rough day. If they're based out of Bangkok, it's not that big of a risk because that is kind of far away. But if he puts any on these good bases here at Kunatan or Kota Bharu or anything along the Malay Peninsula, Sabang is very risky. Surabaya? Yeah, I'm not sure. Galactic. People have tried to help me out like multiple times in the chat, and I always get it wrong. I'm just really bad at pronouncing words. And it's not even like I'm not even trying to like mock it up as like, oh, I'm gonna just be a jerk and mispronounce it. I'm just terrible at hooked on phonics, I guess. Yeah, so I think that's probably it, guys. By the way, Narv Val, thanks for the follow, and I can't remember if I said it or not, but Ruba Conandon, thank you for the follow as well. I think that's going to do it for... I just eviscerates words. You know, it's not intentional for the most part. Do not unload, right? Shit, are these guys unloading? Capacity's 25. No, they're not. Okay, so... You're going to send these guys. They can move at 19 knots. They've got pretty good speed. So we'll send them to Cape Town. Flank speed. Off map to off map. Doesn't use fuel. So good for them. And we're going to send these guys as well. We're moving some aircraft to Australia via the long route to Cape Town. And we'll get them out of there, too. Okay, so we'll undock them. These guys won't move this turn because they used apparently 1,000 ops points, probably to refuel, replenish the ship. But we'll get these guys out of Panama and on their way to Cape Town. But that's probably going to do it for the stream tonight. Samoa occupied? By who? Savi is in Japanese hands. They landed a small force there, and I just haven't... It's not worth enough victory points to expend a huge amount of effort and potentially risk of drawing down major Japanese units. It doesn't seem like he's got air units at Savi. It doesn't seem like he's actually patrolling anything out of there. He does have a small unit there. I ran some recon over it a turn or two ago, and there were some Japanese troops there. Use your B-17s out of Batavia to bomb Palembang until the invasion of Java starts... Might not be a terrible idea. We'd probably take a fair amount of losses. Batavia is also a level 4 airfield, so it's not a major field, which means we'd be flying at extended range, although it's only a range of 7. It's not a terrible idea. I've definitely seen people do that. I've had people do it to me where they launch raids against Palembang. Now he does have 57 fighters there, so I would imagine he's not being stupid and he's gonna fly a cap over Palembang. But it might be a way to catch him a little bit by surprise. The B-17 is tough enough that you can probably get one raid in without too many losses. Every point you do of damage, I think, is like 1,000 supply or fuel that gets denied to them over the course of the game, or something absurd like that. But we'll see. Anyway, where's the salmon at right now? The submarine salmon? I don't know. Why do you want to ask such a foolish question like that? She is currently in the Euphoria Sea. So down here. Were you just trying to get me to mispronounce the word salmon? Because I said salmon a couple of weeks back. You know, when you're speaking off the cuff and you're just saying things as you see them on the screen, and you can't really prepare because there's like a million different words you have to say in this game, it is very easy to mispronounce a word like salmon. Anyway, that's going to do it, guys. I appreciate you coming out. Had a good show on here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed yet another look at War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition. I'm not sure when the next turn's going to be. Obviously, as soon as I wrap this up, it'll probably go back to XTRG in a couple of days. But we did see a tweet out by the folks over at Grand Tactician, the Civil War, that they're going to be sending codes out to YouTubers next week. So in full transparency, when I get access to that game, assuming it's good, which I'm really hopeful for, it's one of my most anticipated games in quite a few years, I will probably be playing the hell out of that, and it may cause War in the Pacific to slip a little bit in terms of the frequency of turns. So it doesn't mean that I will be pausing the series by any means, but it does mean that rather than one turn, or rather than 2 turns a week, which is what I try to do, although lately it's been closer to 1 turn a week, it might be, 1 turn every week to 10 days instead, depending on how much I really get into that game. So that is something that, just to be aware of, I'm really excited about that game, and I will be playing the hell out of that game and whatnot. I do have 1 sub north. I've got the Pickerel operating north. I have a bunch of subs on the way to Rabaul, so I've kind of got a line of subs here blocking the access to Moresby, and then I've got a bunch of other subs that are on their way up to strategic points. I've got some that are going to be going to Rabaul. I'm going to try and build a little bit of a ring around Truk and some other bases to try and start using my subs a little bit more effectively. I said I'm not sure what to do with them, but I'm going to be trying a couple of different things with them. I am in the process of a major submarine redeployment at the moment. Korobar, the series isn't going to stop. It's just going to be, again, instead of a 1 turn every 4 to 7 days, it'll probably be 1 turn every 7 to 10 days for maybe a month. It's not a permanent thing. This series is in my opinion, this is the series I enjoy the most right now on my channel, and one of the most enjoyable series I've done of all time. But it's a big game release of a game that I'm looking forward to. So I'm going to stream a lot of that. With that being said, guys, I do appreciate you guys coming out. Dank Daddy PC, thank you very much for the follow. All the new followers tonight, thanks for joining the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. To the subs out there who continue to support the channel, really appreciate it, as well as the folks who continue to donate bits. Every little bit helps. I think I'll probably have to upgrade my PC in the not-too-distant future, and while I don't do this for a living, it is certainly easier to justify my expenses and the time I pour into this when I get a little bit of help. So I do appreciate it, guys. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.